Hello everyone, this is Kurt. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the Warhammer Day preview. Happened this morning, Saturday, October 30th. For those of you who may not be familiar with Games Workshop and Warhammer, how they do their different reveals and things like that, several times throughout the year, at least this is what they've been doing lately, the Warhammer community team releases few new videos on like a live stream format. They've got a couple guys, these fellows down here, Adam Troke and Eddie Eccles. They've been doing this for a little while now. This was actually, I think this started at the very beginning of our global pandemic. They usually, at least they did, I don't know if they'll continue doing this after things get more back to normal, but they would typically go to different major grand tournaments, like on the all across the world. If there was a gathering of players for Warhammer Age of Sigmar, Warhammer 40k, or both, sometimes even where there wasn't tournaments and it was just a large gaming event, they would send some folks into a preview. The people there usually got to see it first, and then after that preview happened, they'd upload the videos. But since for the last couple of years no one's been able to leave their house or go to a large-scale event like we've seen in the past, they've moved these previews online. Instead of doing one or two big ones a year, they've done, I don't know, 3 or 4, maybe more every year. They're okay. I try to catch them when they come on. But often these previews tend to be mostly corporate language, couched with some new videos and a couple of guys who we're supposed to believe are completely sold out for Warhammer 100% of the time, drooling over any new models. Now, sometimes the new models and new aspects of the game deserve it, but oftentimes they don't. So I tend to take everything that's said with a grain of salt and try to approach it with a little bit of skepticism. But I figured I'd go through some of the noteworthy aspects of today's Warhammer Day preview, just give you some of my thoughts on it. So first and foremost, it was about an hour and a half, and let me tell you, that's just way too long for something like this, at least in my perspective. Hour and a half to watch a bunch of videos that you could just watch on your own. I don't know, it's silly. I don't even watch the Twitch stream anymore from Warhammer. I just end up watching on Chapter Master Valrax, his reaction stream. That's a perfectly fine way of watching it. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I like to watch it with him because you're not just watching the videos, but you're also getting some color commentary. It's a little funny. It keeps it fresh, especially in between videos. They'll show a 1-minute video and then they'll talk about it for 10 minutes, and it's not anything interesting. It's mostly just corporate speak. It's a marketing ploy. But be that as it may, it was about an hour and a half, and they showed previews from pretty much all their different game systems. I don't think I saw anything for Lord of the Rings, but we saw things from 40k, from Age of Sigmar. We saw things from the Horus Heresy, and from Blood Bowl, as well as some other game systems too. It was okay. I mean, honestly, it wasn't as much as I thought would be revealed. There's been a lot of rumors circulating about the World Eaters coming out, just kind of like the Death Guard and the Thousand Suns had their own release. There's been rumors that Angron and will be released as a Demon Primarch, and the World Eaters will have their own Codex supplement. So that a lot of people were expecting and hoping to see that today. There's also been rumors, and I mean rumors with pictures attached, images attached, of a Horus Heresy box set too, and people thought we'd see that today, and we didn't. We did get some cool things though. So before I head into some of the specifics, they released a new box set for 40k. They're showing a new battle tome, the next battle tome for Age of Sigmar, Magican, and Nurgle. Dungeon Bowl, which honestly I didn't pay much attention to. I'm not a Blood Bowl player. It's not really my thing. Mostly because, honestly, if you're collecting anything in 40k and Age of Sigmar, you don't have a ton of money because it takes all your money, especially in the US here. But anyway, so I've never played it. It looks interesting, but this looks like it's sort of like a new release for that. Warcry, which from what I can tell, is the Age of Sigmar version of Kill Team. I mean, it's pretty interesting, but again, don't play it. Warhammer Underworlds, this seems to be very, very popular right now. The warbands that they're releasing are really neat. I've collected a couple myself, even though I don't play Underworlds, excuse me. But they're launching a new version of Underworlds, Harrow Deep, and they showed one of the new warbands from that. And then Horus Heresy, obviously Jagati Khan right here. We'll take a little deeper look at his model. And then, usually they end these with a teaser. This was not much of a teaser. Every year they release a model, like either a Bugman's model or a Red Gobbo model or something like that. And this appears to be just sort of like an advertisement for their typical Christmas stuff. But anyway, you could watch that if you'd like. I'm not going to spend any time on it because it seems pretty ho-hum to me. So anyway, let's start with Shadow Throne here. This is going to be a box set with the Adeptus Custodies and the Genestealer Cults. Games Workshop has sort of fallen into this pattern with box set releases that they'll have 2 factions and 1 new model for each faction. I'm not aware of any box sets besides the Eldar box set that had, what they have? They re-released the Howling Banshees in addition to whatever the Phoenix Lord is associated with that. But this box set, it looks like a pretty light box set. I know, you've got the Adeptus Custodies and the Genestealer Cults. Genestealer Cults tend to have larger armies, and the Adeptus Custodies are a very elite force, so you wouldn't expect to have a huge box. But still, it seems a little light for compared to what we've typically seen. One thing that was sort of an interesting reveal was that the Sisters of Silence, which are the models that you see on the right here, the Sisters of Silence, or at the end of 7th edition, I think it was, they were starting to be released, and by all appearances, it seemed like they were going to have their own army or their own faction. That's definitely not the case, and since then, you've been able to play with them and the Custodies as sort of the talons of the Emperor. It was like 2 factions combined into 1. Sisters of Silence are a really cool faction because they believe they guard the Golden Throne. Any bigger lore nuts would have to correct me in the comments below. But they're sort of null humans where the warmth and psychic powers don't affect them. So wherever they go in the tabletop, they sort of bring a bubble of no psychics, no psychic stuff. None of that psychic tomfoolery, okay? And then, of course, the Custodies, which were just an extremely elite super soldier group. It's Space Marines on steroids. So they revealed here, though, that instead of deploying both as Talons of the Emperor, now they've just appeared to be anyway, merged with the Adeptus Custodies. So if there was anyone out there hoping for a Sisters of Silence expansion or a release of more models, that doesn't seem to be the case, at least in the near future. Obviously, with Games Workshop, you can never rule anything off the table permanently. They like to release things as fan service down the line, but that's not going to be the case, at least for the short term. Now, there are 2 new models here. You have this guy, which I believe is the Blade Champion. Yep, Adeptus Custodies Blade Champion. Seems like a lieutenant character, a hero-type character, with a name like the Blade Champion. I'm assuming he's going to be really great in close combat. Probably a sort of duelist character. And if you notice, he's on a rock there, so apparently he has the high ground. Har har. Then the other new model for the Genestealer Cults is this Saboteur type character. I didn't catch its name. It's probably down here. Yep. Let's see. It's called the Reductus Saboteur, whatever that means. You see some of the different things that have been teased in previous rumor engine releases. Like you've got this landmine, you've got this radio, you've got this backpack. I know a lot of people were thinking some of these things represented maybe an expansion to the Krieg line or Astra Militarum of some sort, the Imperial Guard. Some people were thinking Tau. Well, it's none of those things. It's the Genestealer Cult. I know personally, I'm not really interested in Genestealer Cult, so every time I see something like this, it's just kind of disappointing. But I guess that's the story of everybody, right? If you're a Custodies fan or if you're a Genestealer Cult fan, this was really exciting. But if you're not, then this is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of ho-hum. This is the new codex coming out. Great cover art, of course. But you see here, Sister of Silence. It seems like this is all but official, that this faction no longer exists. So I don't have a problem with that. Some people who are really into the lore might, but it is what it is. And of course, here's some of their marketing shots of what to expect in 9th edition with the Sons of the Golden Throne. Okay, and then Genestealer Cults, they're releasing their new codex, and obviously probably more of the same, just with 1 or 2 new models. So, if this is your sort of thing, your sort of box set, I would imagine it'll be somewhere in the $150 to $200 range. Doesn't seem like a great use of money to me, but if this is your thing, more power to you. All right, now something I'm more interested in, and anybody who likes the Plague Father, Nurgle, you're going to be interested in this, especially if you play Age of Sigmar. So they are releasing a new model. Let's see where it is, right here. It's not really a new unit, but it's a new model. So this is the Magakin Sorcerer, the Rotbringer Sorcerer. That was an older model that was released, I don't even know how long ago it was. I have that model. It was resin, fine cast. Pretty simple model. It was like 2 pieces, and you'd clip them and glue them together, and you're done. It's not a horrible model. It definitely looks more like the aesthetic from Warhammer Fantasy than it does from Age of Sigmar, which again isn't a problem for me, especially because I loved the aesthetic of Warhammer Fantasy, sort of the high fantasy, this gothic kind of fantasy. But this new Rotbringer model, honestly, is very much in line with the aesthetic from both systems. I think this fits very well into Age of Sigmar, but I also could have seen this totally on the tabletop with Warhammer Fantasy Battles. It's a great model. It's one that I'm definitely picking up. I don't even care that I already have one, a Rotbringer Sorcerer. This is just such a nice sculpt, and it really fits in well with the Putrid Blight Kings and the Puscoil Blight Lords. The whole Rotbringer aesthetic. It's really clearly pronounced here. But I think they've done a good job updating some of the different aspects of the aesthetic. Like it's carrying, I don't know, what is that? Like a gallows on its back. It's got the scythe. It's got the candles with the warp flame on it. The bells, the boils, the insectoid type mutations. It's just a great piece. As usual, all the models that come out of Games Workshop, all the models that we've seen today, just fantastic models. 100% worth picking up and putting together and painting just for the hobby aspect of it. You're not going to find better models on the market for fantasy or for science fiction. Just great stuff. So they didn't really say much about the Battle Tome. I've just gone into Age of Sigmar. I think in this last edition, the 2nd edition, is really where I got into it. Bought the Soul Wars box set, and I've collect a Death Army, which now is Soulblight Gravelords. Collect Magakin of Nurgle and Stormcast Eternals. So I haven't seen. My understanding anyway is that the last Battle Tome for Nurgle was in 1st edition. I think they put it out somewhere towards the mid to the end. I remember there was a whole Christmas release where they updated the Demon line with the new Great Unclean One and the new Beasts in Nurgle, things like that. So I think it's been 3 years since they've had a Battle Tome. Could be 2. But needless to say, they are in sore need of an update. And so this book comes out, and that makes me excited. Something else I'll pick up. I don't pick up many rule books anymore because I honestly don't have the money or the time to play all these different games, all these different armies. You know, you have a family as you get older, all that stuff, right? Get your job. But this is a book that I'm very excited to see. So what it says here is, facing off against an army dedicated to Nurgle should be daunting, and now it feels that way. The various plagues and contagions have more impact, and the troops are just as hard to put down, even more so if you bring along their most powerful demon, the so-called Loci of Fecundity. That is an interesting an interesting phrase there. Their most powerful demon, the so-called loci of fecundity. That makes me wonder if the Glotkin is going to be renamed. Now, the Glotkin is sort of a holdover from the old world. The Glotkin was, it's a phrase, well, kin, meaning family, and Glot, as in that's their last name, the brothers Glot. There's 3 of them. One of them's named Gurk. I don't remember the names of the other 2. But that's this big monstrosity here. This guy was a human. He was mutated into this by Nurgle. And then these are his brothers up here. And so it's one of those things in Sigmar, Age of Sigmar, where they've brought over a lot of the models and the sculpts, the factions, and some of the stories from fantasy battles, but they often don't fit. And I think the Glotkin is one of those examples of something that just doesn't fit. So if they changed the name to Loci of Fecundity and gave it some new lore, that wouldn't bother me in the slightest. They're 2 different games, and I feel like, they've been doing a good job with Sigmar, and I'm comfortable sort of leaving behind some of the trappings of the old world. So if that's what that is, that's great. Otherwise, I wonder if it's some sort of title you can grant one of your greater demons, or if it's just like a relic or some sort of a trait that you can pick up like that. But I have a feeling, based on just the phrasing and the picture they've attached here, that Glotkin may have changed names and battlefield roles. Something I would welcome. It also says that you're going to get Path to Glory rules, which is something I'm very excited about. I have not gotten to play any of the Path to Glory stuff in 9th edition yet, but this is going to be the time when I do that. I'll be trying to find some games, my local game store, trying to fill out this Path to Glory system. It's also a great way to motivate me to finish painting my Magakin list. It's been slow going, needless to say. During these last couple years, finding motivation to paint has not been easy. It says it's going to drop in December, so keep your wallets tight to your pants? ? Okay, the video not really that interesting, but next video, the next thing I just wanted to show some of the models from Harrowdeep. These are just great. This is why people are so interested in Underworlds and why so many people want to see a Warhammer 40k equivalent of Underworlds. The warbands that they're coming out with, whether or not you want to play Underworlds, these are the kind of warbands that you'd like to add to your own collection, just for the sculpt alone. But if you're an Ogres player, this is a great proxy, or you could just use them as is. They do have rules that you can play these guys in the battlefield. And something with warbands from Underworld do really well is creating these funny, interesting little characters, these little models. Like you got a snotling here with an anchor and a rope, and a monkey of some kind with a knife in his tail. Like that's just fun. It's interesting. It's something you don't see all the time. And then this parrot looks like Iago from Aladdin, and a snotling with a peg leg. Just a lot of character, a ton of character. These models really tell a story. And I tip my hat yet again to the sculptors that work for Games Workshop, the artists. These are just great models. Something that's a lot of fun to look at. Down here, they're talking about all the different warbands that they dropped with the last expansion for Underworlds, and now they're linking to this roadmap. They show just a little bit into the second quarter of 2022, but they want to drop the core set and a new warband, which I'm thinking is the Pirates that we just saw, Rivals deck, and then this new warband with all the lightning, that's got to be Stormcast. And then a new core set with 2 new warbands. This is very similar to the Kill Team roadmap that they dropped with the new edition of Kill Team for 40k. It looks like this may be an imprint, sort of like a mold for how they approach things in the future. These are the 2 launch warbands, and this was just a little tease for the other Harrowdeep warband that we saw. But anyway, if you're into Underworlds or not, that's not a bad pick. Usually those warbands cost you anywhere from $30-$40 depending on where you pick up the warband. And finally, the other thing that I think was noteworthy was the final Primarch for the Horus Heresy is being released. Jagati Khan, he is the Primarch of the White Scars. And talk about a great model. I mean, just look at this guy. Absolutely insane. So much. There's just so much going on in this model, and it's ornate, and it's very true to the background of the White Scars, but it's also bringing in a lot of influences that you don't see very often in miniature wargaming. So a lot of this sort of Eastern Asian influence. You're picking up notes of Chinese culture, picking up notes of Mongolian culture. Even I've saw some commenters remarking on the sword how it reminded them of different Pakistani and Indian cultures. Just really neat model to see on the tabletop. I don't have any qualms about picking up this model and painting it just for your shelf. I mean, look at the detail. It's just beautiful. It looks like a display piece, and yet it's for the tabletop. It's meant to play games with. So this seems to conclude their Primarch series, but at the end of the video, they sort of tease that there's more coming this year. And who knows if that means the box set or if that's referencing another model. I know some people are wondering if they're going to make a Malkador model or if they're going to make a model of the Emperor. Who knows, really? But I'm sure they'll tell us in due order and then charge us a lot of money for it, and we will go and we will buy it because we are good sons of the Emperor. So the one critique that I heard, I think is a fair critique. It's just Jagati Khan, and it's not his motorcycle. And, I get it. Like, I get that people are like, oh, White Scars have bikes. Where's his bike? But at the same time, is Jagati Khan, is the story of the Primarch about their accessories or about the man? And I think it's about the man. So when I look at this model, I think it's complete. I don't think to myself, gee, I really wish he was on his bike. That's just not something that happens for me. So overall, I'd rate this Warhammer Day reveal. I'd give it a 6 out of 10. Got some interesting stuff, but unless you're super into some of the things that they released today, you're going to be a little disappointed. I think that around Christmas time, I wouldn't be surprised if they do another reveal stream like this, maybe something a little more expansive into the next year. But Games Workshop likes to make their big teases for the spring, because I think their fiscal year renews like in May or June or something like that. They have investors' calls and things like that. It's something that they really like to talk about, their projections for first and second quarter being attached to either a new edition or a massive new faction release or something big like that. So I know if we're expecting to see World Eaters and Angron, the Demon Primarch, which, I mean, obviously I will be buying, even if I never play those models. Those are some I'd love to collect. I'm just picturing in my head what they could be, and it's an awesome thing. But those are the sort of things that I think we maybe should expect, not at Christmas time, but later. And then finally, I'm hearing, rumors about Tau, and as a Tau player myself, it's been a while since we've been competitive on the tabletop. Not going to lie, it kind of sucks. They're supposed to be the faction that can just blow all their opponents off the table. Supposed to be shooty and really mobile, and they've not been either of those things for quite some time. Obviously, in 7th edition, they were way overpowered, especially with the Hunter contingent, which, as a Tau player, those were great days. But it would be nice if, in 9th edition, we could put them on the tabletop and at least feel competitive, at least feel like we're being true to who the Tau are. So maybe that's something we might see in December. But either way, seems like it was just an appetizer. This didn't seem like it was a real main course. I almost forgot that they, more Warhammer Plus stuff, but, still not a ton of content on there, probably not worth the subscription. But anyway, so this is just my opinions, my reactions to the Warhammer Day stream. If you liked the video, give it a like, drop a comment down below. If you're interested in tabletop gaming, especially Warhammer, Battletech, if you're interested in video games, RPG, strategy games, whatever it may be, this channel is a great channel for you. It's a great antidote to boredom. So if you're finding yourself enjoying the content, please subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so you know when we release new videos. Hope you've had a great time listening to this video, and I'll catch you soon.